Jason Garrett will not be in the same place he was in 2019. Dallas Cowboys announced on Sunday during the Eagles playoff game, by the way, they are moving on from the man who has led them since midway through the 2010 season. For more on this, what it means for Garrett, and more importantly, the future of the Cowboys, we bring in Rat Sheet, Ian Rappaport. All right, finally, we have some answers in this, we think, because it was a strange last few days with Mike McCarthy and Marvin Lewis in the building and Jason Garrett still politicking for his job. Where are we right now with this, Ian?
Reality is, Chris, we're in the same place we were 6 days ago. Everyone has known that Jason Garrett was not going to be the Cowboys coach in 2020 as soon as it was clear that they were not going to win the NFC East, we're not going to go to the playoffs, and certainly we're not going to go deep into the playoffs, which Jason Garrett needed to do to keep his job. It has been evident and clear that he was going to be out. He met with the Jones family on Monday, met with the Jones family on Tuesday. There was no announcement. They went to Aspen, hung out for a little bit. Meanwhile, when they came back, the Cowboys began their coaching search. They interviewed Marvin Lewis, the former Bengals coach. Then they spent a couple days with Mike McCarthy, the former Packers coach, who did such a good job in creating the Aaron Rodgers that we all see today. There was nothing official on Jason Garrett, but it was obvious they were moving on because they were interviewing other coaches to take his job. All that was left was to officially and finally inform Garrett they were cutting ties with him today rather than wait till January 14th. And perhaps in part because the reports came out of who they were interviewing, the Cowboys now officially announced, Jerry Jones did, that they were not going to renew his contract. Jones, of course, thanking him for everything he did to the Cowboys, discussing what he represents for the organization, and officially and mercifully moving on.
Real quickly, Lincoln Riley, Urban Meyer. I mean, Deion said they're going for big fish. Do you agree?
I do agree. And Lincoln Riley certainly is a name that I would keep in mind. From what I expect, the Cowboys are going to take his temperature and see if this is a coach who'd be willing to leave one of the best jobs in college football for one of the best jobs in the NFL. And, I talked to people close to Lincoln Riley. They are not quite sure that he would leave for the NFL, even though it is the Cowboys. But as you know, Jerry Jones can be quite a salesman. They could theoretically, based on the interviews they've done, hire him at any point. I would expect the Cowboys to go down that route and just see if Lincoln Riley is interested and proceed from there.
All right, Ian Rappaport, thank you very much for the insight. Let's move down to Big D, where Jane Slater's been on the beat for the last week or so on a very strange 7 days down there in the Metroplex area. Jane, what's the latest with you?
Well, I woke up from a nap from all the news. Certainly wasn't expecting this. I don't think a lot of fans were either. I mean, we expected that they were, as Ian had said, that they were likely moving on from him. The writing was on the wall this week when he was telling players, goodbye in that meeting, essentially. One player had told me last week it felt like he was saying goodbye without actually saying it. And then we all thought it was incredibly curious that he continued to show up to work and that he hadn't completed some of these exit interviews. He had even characterized things as if we want you back next year. And so for those of us that are sort of getting the temperature inside the building, there were mixed messages. Was there a possibility that Jerry Jones could hang on to him? The sense that we were all getting was that Jerry was perhaps getting cold feet on a decision that they had likely made weeks ago. So now that this is officially done and we're hearing word that they're now reaching out to these other coaches and bringing them in the building, it certainly is now opening up the next chapter here in Dallas, one that is, as Ian just said, I mean, they're mercifully letting him go at this point. And, I thought it was interesting, too. I've seen some of the responses from players on Twitter, them talking about their respect for the coach, the way that he would believe in them. That is why I've argued and maintained that he's had his job as long as he has in Dallas, despite some of that postseason success. The players love this guy. I talked to at least one coach tonight who heard from Jason Garrett. He finally reached out to them and, essentially confirmed the news. But it's unfortunate. I think it's been hard to cover this just because you get to know Jason Garrett and you know how well he was liked in the locker room. And it was hard to watch this thing. It felt like a really slow death. At least now he can move on and perhaps go interview for that job with the Giants after hearing about their interest in him a couple of weeks ago, originally reported by my colleague Ian Rappaport.
Jane Slater, thanks very much for the insight. You are officially off of Jason Garrett watch. At the top of the show, the Dallas Cowboys, not surprisingly, are moving on from Jason Garrett. His contract was due to expire on January 14th, so they will find a new leader Garrett has been in charge since midway through the 2010 season. For more on this, we welcome in Jason Garrett's former teammate down there with the Dallas Cowboys, a three-time Super Bowl champion, a Hall of Famer, Michael Irvin. All right, Mike, Deion Sanders says Jason Garrett isn't to blame, it's the players. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think there's certainly some culpability to go around there. You know, coaches do coach and players have to play. But we see all the time, too, players rising above coaching and sometimes players just not getting it done. And I like to place that blame on everybody. Bringing in somebody is one thing. Getting the most out of these players, that's another thing. And whoever they bring in, he has to not just be an X and O guy, I think a motivator to get these guys motivated to bring out their skill set and talents.
All right. We know that they've interviewed Mike McCarthy. They've interviewed Marvin Lewis. Those guys both have more than 10 years experience as an NFL head coach. Do you go that route or with somebody else out there, Michael?
And, you know, when people ask a question like that, Chris, really, I have to be in the room. I have to hear these guys. I know when you got guys like that have a track record, that's one thing. But I want to know what guy can reach down in kids and pull out kings, not just a guy that can tell me how to draw up an out route or a deep end route. I need to know that you can do more because I think that's what that Dallas Cowboys team need. They need more. Drawing up things that fit their skill set. I call it a Golden State or a Kerr situation. Steve Kerr had all the talent there. He just put up the right things to bring the best out of that talent. I think the Dallas Cowboys have a similar situation that like that for a Kerr situation. They got to bring the right person in, but they have all the talent here.
So I see. You're saying that Jason Garrett is the Mark Jackson and somebody else unknown is the Steve Kerr. We'll see if that works out or not. Hall of Famer, thank you very much for the time.
Okay, now I'm going to be waiting on a call from Coach Garrett or Mark Jackson since you had to lay that out like that. You know what I'm saying? But something like that is what I would say.
I got it. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Good talking.
Eagles have talent. It's just all injured. Carson Wentz playing his first playoff game. He threw 3 passes, done after this hit by Jadeveon Clowney, who would finish out that series, go into the blue tent, and eventually the locker room, leave with a head injury. Third quarter, Seattle up 10-6. Russell Wilson to the rookie DK Metcalf uses every inch of that frame to haul it in, get up, and get into the end zone. 7 snags for a rookie record in the Super Bowl era, 160 playoff receiving yards. Now in the fourth, Josh McCown, who had to come in for the injured Wentz, on 4th and 7, try to tie this thing up with a touchdown and 2-point conversion, gets sacked instead. Eagles season is over. Seahawks are moving on to Green Bay.
This was a really good accomplishment for our guys. You know, we've come off a season of playing really well on the road, and having played well here too. To get back and get do it again. And I know there's a lot of talk. How do you do that stuff again? But we did. Matter of fact, the score was even the same. I think. It's a really big accomplishment. Yeah, and of course, you get to advance, and you're talking about surviving. We're just fired up to have another chance to keep playing football and keep pushing it, and see how far we can go.
I'm disappointed, for him, because I wanted this for him, obviously, and I think a lot of his teammates did too, and the organization did. I mean, he's battled through a lot, but we'll learn from it. We'll move on.
You were expected. Is this a different game if Carson's healthy?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I would say yes. If he's healthy, with the game plan that we had, I think so. But it's hard to speculate.
So with Wentz out, Josh McCown, 40 years old, making his playoff debut as a player, overcome with emotion, being consoled by his teammate Zach Ertz. I mean, Deion, none of us as football fans can understand what a guy like this is going through. What is that like?
That's like, guys, I just wish I would have been a little more prepared. I wish I would have known this opportunity was coming. I would have given it a little more. Hey, that's just the competitor in this kid. Let me tell you something, man. I don't care how old he is. He played his butt off. He did the best he darn could without reps with the first team, without timing with the first team, without running plays with the first team. He played his butt off, man. I'm proud of him. And I got love for Ertz, man, for just being there for him. That's what this game is about, those type of relationships that you would never forget right there.
And you know what? Let's give a big pat on the back to Doug Peterson and the entire Eagles organization. A lot of teams would have crumbled. A lot of teams would not have finished 9-7, would not have won the NFC East. I know we made our jokes about the division all season long, but look at the talent they lost, especially on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah.
You know, no Lane Johnson, their Pro Bowl right tackle. Alshon Jeffrey. They've been without Deshaun Jackson for months. Zach Ertz went out there with a broken rib and played. And I get it, injuries are a part of the game, but usually you don't have this many stacked upon one another, Dion.
Right. And they did a wonderful job. Hats off to the entire organization.
Yeah.
They really played well, and they almost pulled that out today. They really did.
And kudos to the Seattle Seahawks as well, because they were missing a couple of offensive linemen as well. We'll see if they are going to be healthy in time for their game next Sunday at Lambeau Field against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay.